attuned to.
But once the DNA is connected, then you have the opportunity to begin to replicate, to grow the strands of DNA through your frequency in the higher realms. And this is the part that was often misunderstood.
I think it's still misunderstood.
The people think, I'm going to come and get DNA and I don't have to do anything because you did it. Yes and no. The etheric portion of the DNA is connected and can become more physical through the practice of staying in the higher fields. And as it becomes more physical in the higher realms, the DNA starts to automatically return back to its blueprint of multiplying and being more. And then you become more of what your blueprint was. You don't become what you are not, you become what you were meant to be. And what you were meant to be is so much greater than what we have seen of ourselves. Welcome to Call for the Truth. I am LaOta of the Sun, and this is Tarvars of the Sun, and we welcome you to join us today. We'll be talking about DNA. It's going to be exciting. But before we do, Tarvars, would you bring us into the Call for Truth?
Yes, and we encourage you all to join us in the Call for the Truth. Shall we call forth the frequency of truth? Shall we call to see the truth in all that we see? Shall we call to hear the truth in all that we hear? Shall we call to speak the truth, calling forth the courage to speak the truth? Shall we call forth nothing less than the truth to come forward into our experience? And feel yourselves saturated within the frequency of truth as we move into the stimulating discussion. And if you're new here, click that subscribe button if you're interested in more of these stimulating conversations. And comment below, let us know what you think about the idea of DNA activation. So we're doing this in honor of our upcoming class.
Yes, we're excited about the upcoming DNA class, but I'd like to share with everyone, I am in the moment of finishing a New Year detox, so I hope you will not worry about me. I'm fine. I'm still detoxing though.
You're like, oh, LaOta.
Yes.
Under the weather.
I'm doing quite well, and thank you for all of your kind thoughts.
Well, I think to just speak a little bit about detox and what that means and what that looks like, I began to look a little further. You inspired me to look into the mucusless diet and what's really happening with the body when we are releasing. It is essentially a healing process. And,
yes.
You know, just looking at the experiences that we've had in terms of the collective shift and where we're being called to move into, it does require us to purge and release things that have been buried deep into the cellular memory that need to make space for the new light and the new information. And sometimes it looks like runny nose or a cough and getting stuff out of your lungs and your chest that has been there
all of the above
before we were eating clean and green, you know. So it's a thing, you know. It's not an overnight process, but I can see the truth of it.
Oh, I'm making room for the light.
That's right.
I'm making room for the light.
Over here, like, throw that in that black garbage bag.
Put
that on the curb.
And I have the uncomfortability is mostly over.
Yeah.
So it's all good, and I hope you'll do the same. Make room for the light.
That's right. Get
you some of that get right juice.
Get right with the light. All right, so speaking of light, DNA, which emits biophotons, information, light. So again, our class is coming up in February. It's the second week, Thursday. You can look at the link in the description for more details regarding the dates, times. But this is a prerequisite to quantum light property clearing. So I want to, at some point in this conversation, speak a little bit about that as well. Why are we even doing DNA activation as a prerequisite? But I understand that you were called to DNA activation as I were, and I found you because of DNA.
Yes.
But would you share with us about your journey to being introduced to the concept of activating the dormant DNA.
So this is Tarvars' origin story with the of the sun, even though it sounds like it's mine.
Okay. Well, I mean,
years before I started operating as someone who facilitated helping with the reconnection of the dormant strands of DNA, I became aware after the harmonic convergence in 1993 that an opening had happened for humanity that had not existed before, and that there was a possibility of humanity not always being in two strands of DNA. And I was mesmerized by that thought, and I dove into all the books and all the material I could find, looking at it, understanding it. I found people who were doing the practice early on. There was a few famous people doing the practices, and I dove into it extremely enthusiastically. I had it done once, and I could feel it take hold and change the ability of what I could receive, because DNA is an antenna that reaches into the galaxy or the cosmic world and into all the other dimensional fields. And I could feel myself being more erected. And then I lost it. Then it went away, and I could feel the drop. So then I went back to the drawing board and I read books, and then I tried to activate it myself by following, a year-long protocol in a book, and doing all the things they said, and eating all the right foods, and doing all the practices, and it happened. I ignited it again. And I felt it, and I was like, yeah, this is it. And I did it on my own too. Yeah, I was loving it, and then it dropped.
I'm visualizing in my mind, like when you're trying to start a car, and you just got it going, and then just off.
So I eventually went to another practitioner, and I asked questions, and the practitioners didn't have any of the answers. They just knew what the ritual was. There was a ritual that they could connect to, that would connect you to those beings who could make the connections. And I could feel it, I could see it, I was aware of it, and I knew it when it happened, but I realized that the practitioners didn't have any of the information. They just knew the name of what they were doing, and they knew what the ritual was. And I was mesmerized by this idea that humanity didn't have to be, at that time it was very well known, this is maybe 2009 or 10, or I'm not even sure when it was. But at this time, it was known that all of our DNA was junk except for two strands. We were third-dimensional people. That was our lot in life, and the junk part went along with the appendix and the tonsils and all the other junk parts that science said we didn't need, and it was to be understood that it was junk, we didn't need it. And I wasn't with that.
It's like, nah, that don't make sense.
I wasn't with the tonsils or the other part either.
Yeah.
So I went into deep meditation for quite a long time and continued to read and mature into what was available, and very little was available. So most of what I eventually understood came in direct understanding. And I eventually was given information on how to connect it, and then answer many of the questions that I had personally, and especially why I wouldn't stay connected. And so that's when I learned about replication, what's required to replicate, that the connection, the etheric connection of the energetic strands being reattached from the ancient blueprint was one thing. Getting them to replicate and ignite was another thing. And so I eventually started a service I actually had a website called DNA Replicate. And all I did was DNA activations on that website. I don't know if that's when I met you. I think I met you actually maybe several years later when I was...
Actually, that site was active,
that the site?
DNAReplicate.com. I remember it.
And apparently you were searching independently, unrelated to what I was doing, and you found us.
Yeah, so slightly similar. We're in the ballpark, but of course the paths were different. I was looking for someone who could facilitate DNA activation. So through my studies, reading, lectures, I came across the understanding, such as yourself, that the totality of our DNA is not functioning. There are some obvious disconnects, like the telomeres on the end, something's up. Looked like we were intentionally dumbed down. And I also saw that there was a solution to this. I saw the spiritual implications of this as well. I knew that there were cosmic energies permeating the planet to encourage a raising and ascension of consciousness. But I was like, this ain't happening fast enough. These cosmic energies. I remember 2012, 12, and I remember working at the call center like, oh man, I'm over here at the call center. I might have to go outside because at 12 o'clock on 12, ascension about to take place. That was like the rapture.
One of the raptures.
Yeah, one of the raptures. But something did really occur. I can see where there were major or significant changes that began to happen in the consciousness of humanity.
Things took place.
It was just not how I thought it was, my preconceived ideas.
2000 something took place. I mean, things took place.
Different nodal points, right?
Yeah, things do take place.
So fast forward somewhere, this was happening like in 2010 when I started learning about these things and expanding, and then you resonated the most out of the different people I was finding who facilitated it. I got the process done. It completely changed my experience, and this was one of the first type of energetic engagements that I truly delved into outside of doing readings. Mm-hmm. And it completely shifted my experience, my reality. I'm talking like quit your job, move out of the state, in your relationship, that all of which was a reflection of the old self and the aspect that I was looking to evolve beyond. That was like two strands of ours. And like I'm thankful for two strands of ours because he got me to where I am now. But
absolutely,
like I understood that there was more available, and here we are today. And with honor, respect, and gratitude, it's a very poetic story where full circle, I'm now facilitating the thing, the actual service that I came to you for.
Which is actually as it should be. And we have many practitioners, and there are many things that we do at Of the Sun, but it is the love of the knowledge of them that gives you the open sesame and the authority in which to do them. So it makes sense as you were in great pursuit, as I was in great pursuit.
I was like,
I was in pursuit for years and tried time and time and time again, and really had to buckle down and understand that I could call forth what I needed and it would come, and it eventually did. And so once I understood the opportunity for humanity to regain what had been stolen and absconded from us, and that was an actual opportunity for a destiny. It was a trajected destiny that if enough of us did it, the rest of us could come along in critical mass. So I've been deeply devoted to this idea for a long time, and it is the platform on which we stand to do and teach other things, because once you have that, it stabilizes you. Your antenna is up. Your genetics are properly in the blueprint, and you are supported by other beings in the cosmos who also have 12 strands of DNA. And it is not to the benefit of our cosmic brothers for us to be handicapped in this way.
Yeah.
It was beneficial for those who wanted to use us as resources, that we would have children in pain, and that we would not rise up too far. So that's being removed from some of us.
It most certainly is. So our stories are rather unique because there was a high level of enthusiasm. There's
Yes.
an intensity
Yes.
to pursuit, enthusiast. So everyone may not have that same level of intensity, but clearly with what you were sharing, I think that people tuning in may feel some call or some desire to engage with this modality. I'd like to break it down a little more, and you kind of spoke on certain things, and I want to go a little deeper into these things. You're talking about the idea of spiritual antenna. You know, some people may think, oh, my spiritual antenna, the third eye, but like, you know, it's much deeper than that in terms of what's happening at the molecular level with the DNA. Would you dive into that that understanding? Like, what do you mean when you say that we're turning on the spiritual antenna?
It's so interesting because our bodies are highly sophisticated technology that we do not fully understand, and I will not say that I do, but what I do understand is that the endocrine system is the place through which information goes to higher levels and vice versa.
Yes.
And that is tied directly to our capacity within the DNA to disseminate the information. So we're calling it an antenna, but the reality is that when we hear someone say, you know, I just talked to Creator and he's my, you know, it's just him and me and we got the best and you talk to me if you want to talk to him, that's not true.
Like, I got my own line of God.
Yes. But even those who are in the most astute places who live on the earth plane are getting about 30%, which might be true and fine, 30% of the information that's available. When you connect the DNA, you up the amount of information you can get, and it may vary where it comes from and what it is, but it's cosmic information that's available that can expand you. So whether it's from the moon or from Mars or from another sun or from another universe or another galaxy, all of that is really not as relevant as it will be coming into you based on who you are and what your frequency to match what you're looking for is. It will always be about a frequency match because that's how frequency works. It doesn't go to the thing it's not interested in. It doesn't match the thing that is not compatible.
I want to go back to, again, the idea of an antenna. You know, typically we use antenna on radios that have to attune to radio station or a frequency in this case. So it's analogous with what you're saying.
So with the endocrine system being the piece of technology or the aspect of our technology that discerns from the realms of the physical and to the realms, the higher, finer realms of the 8th chakra and above, that's what the door opens to, and then you get what you get based on who you are and what your frequencies are. There's no guarantee that you're going to float out into the rapture or anything like that, but more information can come in. I've seen some miraculous things happen with people having more information flood in, having healings and things happen as a result. The DNA itself, because it has been disassembled, is no longer the full. It's like taking apart a radio. Like, you still got some of the radio. You still got 2 of the
channels on the dial. All the rest of this spectrum you can't even attune to.
But once the DNA is connected, then you have the opportunity to begin to replicate, to grow the strands of DNA through your frequency in the higher realms. And this is the part that was often misunderstood.
I think it's still misunderstood.
The people think, I'm going to come and get DNA and I don't have to do anything because you did it. Yes and no. The etheric portion of the DNA is connected and can become more physical through the practice of staying in the higher fields. And as it becomes more physical in the higher realms, the DNA starts to automatically return back to its blueprint of multiplying and being more. And then you become more of what your blueprint was. You don't become what you are not, you become what you were meant to be. And what you were meant to be is so much greater than what we have seen of ourselves. So I think that speaks to that.
It most certainly does. And I like where you were going with what's required to sustain your activation and continue replicating the strands. I don't often see the terminology replication out there. I often see very prevalent DNA activation, but not the idea of the replication. What does that mean?
It means that just as they have been deleted, they must be added or multiplied or brought back into the frequency where they can work within the technology which you consider your body. And if you're eating ding-dongs and corn dogs and living a life that is low frequency and doesn't allow for light to come in, you won't be able to have enough light to replicate the original state in which humanity was designed, where it was taken away, so you won't be able to bring it back. So there are two stages. Yes, you have to have the connection, but you also have to be able to keep yourself at a frequency where you're multiplying, adding, and being an addition, so that you can reach the pitch where it automatically takes place. And that's the part that people don't like, because that requires changing behavior, habits, and doing things that would bring you into greater exaltation of self and others.
Where's the most dangerous place to keep your money right now? And I'll prove it in 60 seconds. Most people think banks are safe. They believe their deposits are sitting in a vault with their name on it. But here's the truth. The moment you hand money to the bank, it's no longer yours. Legally, you're a creditor. And in a crisis, creditors are paid last, if at all. Banks don't protect your money. They use it. They lend it, they leverage it, and gamble it. If their bets go bad, you carry the risk. And if inflation rises, your safe savings lose. They lose value every single year. That's why millionaires don't park cash in banks. They park cash in assets. History proves it. Cyprus 2013, deposits frozen, savers lost billions. Argentina, Venezuela, Turkey, currencies collapse, savings evaporated. Even in the US, over 500 banks failed since 2008. And yet, central banks themselves are quietly stacking gold at record levels. Why? Because they know the real safety lies. Because they know where the real safety lies. So here's how you protect yourself. Keep only what you need for daily liquidity in the bank. Move the rest into assets that can't be frozen or printed. Things like gold, real estate, and private equity. Build a reserve outside the system so you own your money, not rent it. Start now, because the riskiest place to keep wealth is where everyone else feels safe.
So with that being said, looking at my own experience hearing this and thinking, what was it that propelled me? Because this, as much as a person can have the assistance with the activation process, it's still incumbent upon the client to replicate through, I'm just going to distill it down, their uptake of light. Increasing the light within their field. It's like the light informs DNA. It starts sparking things together, and then it starts becoming an amplifier, and then the light allows for expansion to tune into the greater spectrum, which looks like higher dimensional realities that, again, are blocked off. Or maybe you are getting something, but your channel got a lot of static, and you're picking up other things as well. So the idea of how having something to look forward to, I think that within the process, DNA activation has a lot of like groundedness in reality. And what I mean by that is most of the people who are tuned in are or have adopted the understanding that at some level they are telepathic, and so is everyone else. But to be able to tap into their telepathy in a way where they're not doubting what they're getting, or there's levels of coherent understanding of this is coming from me, or this is coming from another person I'm picking up. I have found that these are things that DNA activation has helped amplify. and clarified. But again, the desire for something like that to occur, for me personally, was the thing that helped me be disciplined, helped me bring in more light, helped me put away certain things that were dampening my capacity to tune in like that.
Yes, and I think that you are unique, but I also think there are many people like you who are gifted, know they're gifted, and have read about what humans can do and want to experience it. That was not my experience. My experience was, I looked around me and saw humans and wanted us to be better because it wasn't going well for me. And I found out through my own toxicity of what I had been brought up on, what my own appetites were, and what I was willing to do, not in honor of self, were keeping me from the experiences that I wanted to have. Having DNA helped me have a North Star. Like, it helped me know that if that there is a connection between divinity and the body. And if the body is toxic and is not well, it needs to be brought back to wellness for however amazing your gifts are, for them to be better. I'm not saying you don't have them, I'm just saying they could be better.
Yeah, I mean, if
if it doesn't have to move through all the toxins, if it doesn't have to go through the mud, which is, I'm detoxing now. Thankfully, I'm so grateful to be able to detox because I expect to be going to a higher level. So, it was the same motivation. My motivation was the same then as it is now, that I wanted to experience what I understood deep within my own soul, what humanity was.
Yeah.
And I saw that we had been tricked and trapped into a circumstance that we were now enforcing on ourselves.
Yeah, which is such a wild experience. It's like, someone else did this, but actually I did this, and I could change it.
But it's my own appetite for the thing that will kill me, that it's my appetite now.
Yeah.
And nobody has to come on and force feed me the poison, because I want the poison with plenty of barbecue sauce on it. Like I want the behavior that will bring me into subhuman subhuman frequencies that could not allow me to reach my divinity. So I lived through all of that, and I wasn't especially gifted or having any desires for telepathy. I was more like knowing, and I think all of us get to the point like, is this all there is? I was at like, no, I know there's more. How do I get there? And DNA helped define that for me. And then replication gave me the clarity of the discipline it takes to reach the higher realms. And once you're there, then you can opt in or out. You can behave however you want, but you reach a point. It's just like me being connected and then dropping out. Like that's what most of us do, with a variety of different things that we do. We go to the gym, we drop out. We go, all the different things we do. It really isn't that unusual, except that it held my attention now for all these many decades. So it's interesting, but people have a variety of ways of experiencing it, and not everyone is the same. And we are each a snowflake, so our own experience is our own experience. And our deep disbelief that we are greater than what we see does affect those who it affects. And our belief that we are greater than what we appear to be affects those that it affects. It's really each person's willingness to shift, to change, to decide, to be greater, to be willing to go through the detox. That makes the difference.
Well, and that's definitely a thing with DNA activation. The information was out there. I think for some people, the idea of DNA was a little dissonant because, you might experience, it was a slew of different things that were literally detox symptoms
Right.
in a variety of different manners, such as emotional, mental, spiritual, and then of course physical elements, what looks like sickness. But funny enough, we see that in the regular process with soul clearings. We're removing interferences, and then there is a physical response in the body that directly corresponds with the release. So
That's why it's called a clearing.
yeah, exactly. But apparently it goes over people's heads.
Yeah.
It's like, why am I feeling this? Is this supposed to be? Yeah, because you clearing. We're clearing out the debris. But again, there are detox symptoms, and I kind of wanted to go into the idea of you were sharing your overall, not necessarily vision, but that's what I want you to go into. You were stating that you began to understand that humanity had a greater potential and that we weren't living up to it. And so what is that potential that you saw?
Well, it has become more clear to me in the decades now that I work with the ancient ancestors, and I recognize that our progenitors, our most ancient of ancestors, the ones who brought us forward onto the earth plane after the earth plane was terraformed and brought us from the cosmic homes that we originally had into earthly bodies. Their idea was really about replicating light and creating a being that replicated what we have in our cosmic sky, which is what we call the sun. And that's why we're called persons. That's why we have a solar plexus, because that was the original idea, and we have moved so far from it. People are like, no, what do you mean? That doesn't make sense. That's crazy. I don't see no light. But the reality is we don't know who we are.
I will say this, at this point, this stage of the game, even Stevie Wonder could see, as you often use that line, but literally science has caught up to what the ancients have been saying. When we have the images depicting master teachers with that glow around them, that was the biophotons. It was the natural light emitting from their literal physical body, or more so their DNA.
Yeah, we can't ignore all the halos on all the pictures.
No,
we can't ignore and pretend that, oh no, that was just, the comic of the day. No, it wasn't. People, and we are glowing at varying levels and degrees, and those who join Light Body Movement are in that process, and we are resuscitating that idea, and it is worthy of our attention and hopefully worthy of yours. It is ultimately, we are not doing anything new. We are returning to the original blueprint, and from there we can grow into the next space. Our focus is to let us resuscitate the 12 strands of DNA. Let us replicate the 144 strands. Let us move back into where we began in this time of the planet being in an ascension process and the planet ascending itself. We are in the right moment, in the right time. You are encouraged to consider this. We're in our right place, born at exactly the right time. No mistakes made here. Your interest, your pursuit for telepathy, it's quite purposeful.
I want to be clear, that's one of the many. That's it. I wanted to use that as just a bridger example for the everyday common person, but my pursuit was to be a whole being. I saw that I'm not whole, and my original state is wholeness, oneness. I saw that through the sacred geometry, and it was really sacred geometry that took me down that path. It was just so clear, it was obvious. I'm like, look at this. You can see DNA in the geometry all throughout nature. You can see it in the planetary bodies. You can see it in the molecular and atomic structure. You can see it at the quantum level. I can see it in the proportions and the ratios of my body. Then why am I not in harmony? It's like somebody plucked me out of the system somehow. And it's like, no, I need to get plugged back in. And again, wholeness. However, what comes with being whole is telepathy, and you be like, wait, what's that? What am I picking up? And I will say though that in the recent times, the telepathy has been off the chain, but it's also, I also noticed that there are many understandings of what I will say DNA activated or a whole being looks like through media and film. You know, sometimes like people may refer to like the X-Men and mutants and mutations and having, I use this air quotes loosely, special abilities, which it doesn't really feel special. It feels more like what you were saying, returning back to the truth of who and what we were. It's not like we're trying to be something new. It's like, let me get this old stuff off of me and plug back into the truth of who I am, because whoever I'm being is a fragment of what I actually am.
It's a very inspiring but different aspect of what my experience was. I am a womb man. It was very easy for me to see I was not honored. And I've lived in several countries and traveled many places, and it was obvious to me that no one knew who they were, but that every single man had ever been born had come through a woman. That was very clear, and I was more in interest of who am I, you know, and I have learned that I am one of two polarities of creation, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and that those two together are creation. And so I have grown into that understanding as the divine feminine and the divine masculine are moving towards greater understanding of who they are in their own ways at this time. So for me, the DNA, you know, and there's no aspect of your body that doesn't know what gender you are, because gender is law. So every cell knows whether it's masculine or feminine. So when you go to a movie series that does DNA, and they pick up your hat and they get your DNA, they know if you're a man or a woman, because your DNA is on there. And we only have 2 strands, and there's a lot of information.
Just from the limited information, it's like, I got all I need here.
Yeah, they got all the information they need to get. So the understanding I had was that within the missing DNA was the part that was missing that would satisfy the aspect of me that was unsatisfied with how womb man was presented by parents, teachers, husbands, lovers, children, employers, and myself. So this has been a journey to find self.
Yeah.
So I didn't think I was going to be an X-Man. I didn't think I was going to be a superhero.
But look at you. I
didn't think there was going to be a cape in the package.
It's like, look at your closet.
I didn't know it then. I have quite a few capes.
You dress for the part.
Unconsciously. So I didn't know that those things would be present or that would come forward. But the more I separated from what I was in dissidence with, which was the way that men and women operated together, the more everything about me changed and separated with the way I wanted to look, the way I wanted to present, what I wanted to wear, what I have to say, what my company would be about. And then I attracted those who were also different.
Yeah, I'm telling you, when I was like, this lady right here, this is it. I don't want to go to nobody else. This is where it's at. It just resonated the most. And you know, it's funny, I hear some of those same sentiments from especially like the newer people who are touching on of the sun.
Yes.
And one of the women who I spoke with, she said, I love that you all of the sun just brings it back to self.
Right.
You know, that everything is inside of you. You are a fractal aspect of the all, and recognizing and going through the process of reclaiming that. And that's what DNA is. And like a lot of what I saw out there even though there was still like DNA, it was still this weird tinge of like putting power in something else, or like too ego based, like, oh, I got 144 strands of DNA, and just like doing the most. And it's like, you sure? I don't know. Yeah, but whatever, okay. But
yeah, it's that's what happens with 2 strands of DNA in the third dimension.
That's what happened when you connected but not replicated.
Well, it's wonderful to have found this modality. We offer it to you with our genuine and authentic thoughts concerning our own processes. And there have been many spectacular things that I actually hesitate to say, because come into DNA and have your own experience and gain from that what may be gained. It is an opportunity, and if you feel deeply about it, and we encourage that you don't do it unless you do feel deeply about it, make the decision and have the experience. We both have. Is there anything else?
Yeah, before we conclude, and well, I want to make sure we get the Call for the Truth card pull in, but DNA activation, it's a prerequisite to quantum light property clearing. Would you elaborate a little bit on why you curated the process to be such?
It is necessary that quantum light property clearing is a nodal point in the spiritual development of a person. Once a person lives on this planet and feels the necessity to clean up what humans have done, the abuse they have left behind, the arguments they have left behind, the imprint of abuse that has been left behind, that is a level of elevation that is not normal in our world. And so that elevates you to a point where many people learn it, but the ones who are willing to actually clear their houses, clear the house next door, make themselves available so others can pay them to clear for them. All of this is an advancement, and it's not new to humanity. It's one of the most ancient of things that people have done, because humanity has been through many levels of exaltation and many levels of degradation. But it is an ancient practice that when people got married, they put salt around the house to keep the negative out. There's ancient stories about dates and eating them to keep negative from you. All of this is part of that idea of taking responsibility to keep, we're in physical reality. In physical reality, when you leave a house empty and no one's there, it's dirty when you come back. That's what's happening to all of us, only people are there. And things are happening, and you're eating things, and you're breathing things, and you're, touching things. So this reality requires cleanliness. And that level of cleanliness brings you to a higher level. If you live in an apartment building and there's McDonald's wrappers at the curb to where you walk into your building and you walk by them, that's one level of consciousness. It's an apartment building. You don't owe them building. You don't feel like you have to do that. But if you live in an apartment building and you see trash in front of where you live and you pick it up, that's another level of consciousness. We're picking up the trash. That's what property clearing is.
Well, certainly.
Yeah.
So I did a card pull while you were speaking, and it's so in support of what you were sharing. It actually jumped out. It's like, okay, fight for your own existence.
Yes.
Is the theme. Root chakra.
Yes.
And this has everything to do with physical reality. And this is what I was saying about DNA activation. It is grounded. It seems like a far-right idea, but it's grounded and rooted in the reality, and this idea of cleaning up yourself, restoring the template of who you are through removing the debris that's distorting it, and how that translates into moving beyond into the extensions of your other self throughout the field, your space and your neighborhood, etc., your communities. And the maxim says, you are the savior you have been waiting for. Fight for an existence.
So we did an earlier live stream podcast about the laws and principles of creation, and this brings to mind The laws and principles of creation state that all things are literal. So in the same literal way that we are so fastidious about germs and bacteria and fungus and viruses and things that would get into the body and have overgrowth or infestations, this is the same thing we're talking about. The trash in front of a house, the abuse on the walls in an apartment where couple after couple come in and year after year say things to each other that embed the frequencies. This is the same thing as bacteria or infestation or cancer or any of those things. It is exactly the same thing. So it is literal that if you don't clean, you will have some level of suffering and then be no more in that reality, because physical reality doesn't last forever. And it will be eroded by the more dirt, the more corruption, the more negative takes physical reality away. And then there's a new landscape. So I think it's an excellent example of how the laws and principles work, especially in the fact that all things are actually literal. So we thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll see us again in Lakesh and Veritas with honor, respect, and gratitude. Thank you.